everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's question is a topic that I get a lot of questions about. The question is related to the age-old question, booth rent versus commission. Now, this is a question that booth renters and a lot of cosmetology graduates ask about, and actually there is no black and white answer to this question. Now, before we discuss which option is most financially advantageous, let's discuss some things that you need to be aware of as a booth renter. As a booth renter, you need to know that even though you are only renting space in a salon, you are still considered a business owner, and therefore you are held to the same compliance standards as other business owners. In the eyes of the state and the IRS, you are a sole proprietor or a single member LLC if you are registered with the state. You should carry your own liability insurance separate from the salon's insurance. You're also required to pay your quarterly estimated taxes just like any other business. You're required to pay your self-employment tax. Now, self-employment tax is something that independent contractors and business owners pay. We pay 15.3% of our net income. Now, if you are an employee, on the other hand, your employer pays half of that. So you, as the employee, you're only paying half of the self-employment tax, and your employer is paying the other half. But as a independent contractor, a booth renter, a salon owner, you're paying the entire 15.3%. So that's one of the, I would say, disadvantages of being self-employed. Now, I've spoken to stylists that don't look at what they do as a business because they don't work out of a building that they themselves pay for, or because they work from home. Now, as long as you're providing a service or selling a product and receiving compensation, you are considered a business, and therefore you must follow all of the rules and requirements of any other business. Working out of your home doesn't give you a pass. Oh, and one other thing, for those of you that work as a mobile stylist with the new salon app services, what you do is also considered a business. So just because you are working in a different form or a different manner, it doesn't negate the fact that you are still a business owner, and therefore you have to treat your business like a business, because the IRS and the states and the Department of Labor are going to treat you like a business, and therefore you need to treat yourself like a business. Now, before I get into the side-by-side net income comparisons between a booth renter and a commissioned stylist, let me quickly go over some of the benefits and the drawbacks of booth renting. Now, a benefit is you get to set your own hours. Now, what's better than that? We all want to work when we want to work, right? You manage 100% of your business, so that means that what you do, you have the ability to choose what you do, how you do it, what kind of styles you're going to do, if you want to niche down, what types of tools to use. This is something that you manage on your own because you're renting space. You are a booth renter. So the owner of the salon doesn't have the right to tell you how to manage your business. You keep all of your income after you pay your booth rent. You can use the products of your choice, which is important because lots of stylists like myself we have preferences when it comes to products. And sometimes it can be challenging when you go into a commission type situation and the salon owner tells you what you have to use, especially if you're used to using a particular product or if you prefer a particular product for whatever reason. As a commission stylist, usually that's not an option. So one of the advantages, of course, of having your own business or renting a booth is that you get to choose the products that you want to use. You can run your business as you please, as long as you follow the terms and the rules of the contract. Now, running it as you please doesn't mean that you can come into somebody else's business and do exactly what you please. You do have to make sure that whatever you do, you are respecting the salon owner and you're also abiding by the terms and conditions of. Now, what are some of the drawbacks of being an independent contractor? Well, you have to maintain your own books. Now, this isn't really a problem if you're disciplined and if you're willing to take the time to actually maintain your books. But from my experience working with stylists as an accountant, and from when I was working as an actual stylist myself, several booth renters don't pay much attention to their books during the year, and they wind up losing so many deductions because of bad record keeping. Okay, so another drawback is you'll likely earn less money while you build your client base, which is true. So you have to make sure in your business plan, if you have a business plan, you should have a business plan, that you have made concessions for this. So when you're creating your forecast or your budget or your cash flow statement, you want to make sure that you also make provisions for paying your booth rent through the months where you're trying to build your clientele and where you may not make enough money to actually pay your booth rent. Now, booth rent is due every week or month, regardless of whether or not you make any money. Whether you are sick or you go on vacation, your booth rent is still due. So keep that in mind. And I'm quite sure booth renters, we all know this, but sometimes, we get really angry when we've made no money and the owner is coming to us at the end of the week with our hands out, with his or her hand out saying, okay, where's my booth rent? You're thinking to yourself, well, I didn't make any money. Why should I have to pay? But yeah, you do have to pay, because it's the same scenario if you're renting a home or an apartment. Even if you decide to go globetrotting for a whole month or two and you come back, your rent for your apartment is still due because you've signed a lease, you've signed a contract, and therefore you have to pay your rent. Okay, so now that we have that out the way, let's look at an example of two fictitious characters, Linda and Mary. Now, both women are and they both have two children. This year, they both made $60,000 in gross income. So as you can see, we're going to be doing an apples to apples comparison. Linda is a booth renter and she pays $200 per week in rent, while Mary, the commission stylist, is on a 50% commission split with her employer. Now, because Linda is a booth renter, she's allowed to reduce her $60,000 gross income by all of her expenses for that year. Linda's expenses totaled $19,125, which includes booth rent and all of her other expenses. This leaves her with a net income of $40,875. Now, keep in mind, we also have to subtract Linda's self-employment tax, which is 15.3% of her net income, for a total of $6,254. This now leaves Linda with $34,621. Mary, the commission stylist, has a gross income after commission of $30,000, which is half of her $60,000 gross income. Now, because Mary is a commission stylist, her employer pays half of her self-employment tax and Mary pays the other half. So after Mary has paid her half, she's now left with $27,705. Now, just to let you know, I didn't calculate and subtract the income tax for either Mary or Linda because of all of the variables included when figuring out a person's income tax. So Mary, she may own a home, which means she's paying interest. She's also paying property taxes. She may have made a significant charitable contribution. On the other hand, Linda may be renting an apartment, and she may have made zero in charitable contributions. So because of that, their income tax is going to be vastly different. So self-employment tax, on the other hand, is non-negotiable. That's why I'm able to include that in my calculation. So all we did was deal with the absolute known facts, which is self-employment is known and we know what their gross income is. So based upon that information, I'm able to give you a snapshot of what their taxable income is going to be before income tax is actually extracted. So as you can see, based on this example, the booth renter made almost $7,000 more than the commission stylist. Now, this $7,000 difference may or may not be a significant amount, but it may be enough to help you decide whether you would like to take on the responsibility of being an independent contractor or a booth renter, or if you'd rather just show up to work without having to worry about the compliance requirements of being an independent contractor. Now, keep in mind, the higher the gross income of both the booth renter and the commission stylist, generally speaking, the more the booth renter will actually make. So that being said, let's say, for example, in this scenario, both Linda and Mary made $100,000. Well, technically speaking, or the likelihood is that the booth renter who made $100,000, even after deductions, is more than likely going to make a little bit more than the commission stylist who made $100,000, but then has to split that $100,000 in half with the salon owner. So hopefully this information will put you on the track to make that decision as to whether or not you'd like to be a booth renter or a commission stylist. Now, I do suggest for those people who are already booth renters, it would be a good idea for you to go visit with an accountant, sit down with an accountant, and let them do the numbers for you, because you already have historical data. So we can use the historical data that you have, look at what you've made in the past, and compare that to, let's say you made that same amount of income as a commission stylist. We can do a comparison to let you know what you would have made if you were a commission stylist versus what you made as a booth renter. So you can use that information to make an intelligent and an informed decision as to whether or not you like to move from being a booth renter to now becoming a commission stylist. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you on my next tidbits video. Have a great day, everyone.